Is this on Facebook? Is that how they get to YouTube? And there's a link on Facebook to it, or on our, like Linda's short is that phone. I have her on my iPad. But if I don't have to do that, then do what? Awesome. So do we need to ask different? Good morning. Good morning. Good morning to the back row. Thank you. Well, we'd like to welcome you back. Very strange times, isn't it now, being back here and not all together at the high school, but we appreciate having you here today. We are going to be talking about mentor logs, which is an unfamiliar term for the majority of you in this room. So we recognize that, and we are going to do our best in 45 minutes today to give you an overview. So your goal is awareness, but also we will communicate with you what your role will be and why. So you should have in front of you a copy of the presentation and a copy of a calendar. Those two documents are what we're going to be working off of today. And before we get talk amongst yourselves. Okay, I'm back. We're going to find Steve. Maybe the battery is low. So I'll keep talking until I have no microphone anymore. Okay, so I'm going to give you a brief overview of why. So if we go to the next tile, Here's what you need to know.
Okay, keep talking.
Hello, hello, hello. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? All right, so we're going to do a redo. And nothing like that happened. Didn't see any of that. We've got it together now. All right, hello to the back. Can you hear me? Okay, we are ready to start. So, I'm going to kind of do a quick timeline. COVID happened, right? We had 13 weeks of spring where we did engagement participation. We are in phase 4 of our governor's roadmap. We are now able to run school in phase 4. The problem is that many districts are running virtual. What does that mean? How do I take attendance? How does the district get paid for having kids in school? So is anyone in this room a Lapeer virtual mentor teacher on a stipend? Not in this group. In 612, I'll have lots of hands tomorrow raising. There's a manual called the Pupil Accounting Manual. It comes from the Michigan Department of Ed, and it gives us our rules as to how to count kids and how to enroll them. So because districts are in virtual mode, and we went that way on Friday, that changes how we have to report our instruction. We simply cannot, as teachers, just go into PowerSchool and click attendance. We have to do this thing called a mentor log. I'm going to let you process that for a second. And the reason we're doing that is we are in virtual learning. And in the pupil accounting manual, section 50D talks about virtual learning and says, school districts, if you want to do virtual learning, here are the rules. And we've been doing those rules for our Lapeer virtual kids the last 7+ years. If Michelle Piper is in the room somewhere, she'd be raising her hand because she is a mentor teacher. So now with COVID, we have to abide by these rules if we're in virtual. And that means if we go to phase 3 across the state, we also have to abide by these rules. So that's why we're training you today, because you play an important part. It's a requirement in order for us to demonstrate that we have kids enrolled, they're receiving instruction, and we can count them in the fall and in the spring. And if anyone has ever taken a finance class in public education, if we don't have kids on count day, we don't get paid. So this is very critical. So virtual learning is our way of giving kids academic instruction in a virtual mode. And for our kids that are not returning face-to-face, and they're going through the Google platform, or they're going through the Peer Virtual through one of our virtual vetted programs, this is how we have to report our time with them. So that's the big picture. Now, some of you, if you're thinking about questions, jot them down on your paper, and we'll try and answer the majority of them at the end. So let's move on. So, you see the definition of teacher of record on the next tile. By that Michigan Pupil Accounting Manual, a teacher of record is responsible for providing instruction. They are certified in the grade level for which they teach. So I'm going to give you some examples. If you are a first grade teacher, you are a teacher of record. If you are a special education teacher, you are a teacher of record. If you are an art teacher, you are a teacher of record. You see the definition of mentor. As much as I would like to say to you that things don't change, some things changed last night at 6:30. And the state has tweaked the definition of mentor for this school year. As you see the definition of mentor here, it says it's a professional employee of the district. Some districts utilize paraprofessionals as mentors. I'm here to tell you that Lapeer Community Schools has never done that in 7+ years. We've always used certificated teachers to be our mentor to kids. If you see at the very bottom, a mentor may also be the teacher of record if the mentor meets that definition of teacher of record, meaning they're certified in that grade level. So for today's purposes, we're talking teacher of record. That's us, sitting in this room, the majority. If you are a school social worker or a school psychologist sitting in the room, you can't be the teacher of record. Could you have been a mentor? Yes. But last night at 6:30, the Michigan Department of Ed changed the rules again. So let's move on. We're going to come back to 4. If you're tabbing things, we're going to come back to 4. So, what do I want you guys to understand? And many of you know me as that special ed director, that rule lady. So I have to live in my little rules, right? And I have to live in my goal society. So, in the event School districts in Michigan enter phases 1 through 3 or offer virtual learning, which we are offering virtual learning. We're not in phase 3. We've decided for 3 weeks, right now, we are offering virtual learning for all of our kids that are taking more than 2 virtual classes.
It's really warm. I'm just saying, I'm sweating up here. Just breathe. Just breathe. It's not fair for me to yell, right? To you guys, because this is critical information. So, talk about canned food. We'll be right back with you. Jen? I don't need a butter. I got coffee. Hello? Hey, I'm back. Third time to charge. Hello to my friends in the back. Okay, I promise, it's never gonna happen again, but we're gonna start a collection of batteries. Okay, so back to, what do I want you to understand? So the when is virtual learning. Now, as an aside, many of you are thinking, well, what happens, Jennifer, if it's in January and we have to go to phase 3? This process kicks back in. So we have to, this is stuff to keep in a file near and dear to you, because it can, as we all experience with COVID, things up and down. The switch goes on, the switch goes off. So the who, the district must provide a teacher of record. You can cross off that mentor piece because we're just providing teacher of records, because last night at 6:30 they told us that's our only option. To document the two-way interaction that occurs between the teacher of record and the pupil. We're going to talk about that and give you some very specific examples today about that, because we want you to be able to walk out of here with awareness, understanding, and if we need to do follow-ups, we will. And bottom line is, why? In order to collect the dollars. That kind of puts it all in that perspective. So moving on. You should be looking at a chart. Now here's the catch. You remember the news article a couple weeks ago that the legislators got together on a Saturday to make up some new revisions to the rules? Some of you remember reading about that. We all thought the governor was going to get on the TV and tell us something really serious, and nothing really was said. Remember that moment? So out of that work session, the legislators put together, and I'm not a politician, I don't know my social studies and civics very well, but this was an outcome that not only do you have to follow the rules of the pupil accounting manual with your mentor logs during the count window, but the legislators in their House bills that the governor signed said, we want monthly mentor logs. So I'm going to say that again. In the old way of doing business of 7+ years of Lapeer Virtual, we had to give our auditor mentor logs for the 4 weeks of count. That rule still is in play. But now that Saturday session said, and we want a monthly as well. So in front of you, if you are the teacher of record, which the majority of you will be, you have to provide your building administrator once a month a mentor log. And we try to structure it around the days we get paid, because we all care about those days, right? So we tried to kind of think about that logically, that in the month of September, we would like you as the teacher of record, so if I am a 5th grade teacher, for my students, I have to have two-way interaction documented between September 8th through September 23rd. We will show you what a mentor log looks like, and I will turn it into Mr. Warren by September 30th. And then Mr. Warren will have big responsibilities, meaning he's got to read every single one of those mentor logs. If they're not filled out correctly, he's going to return it to you and he's going to ask you to correct it. If it sneaks by Mr. Warren and he missed it, and Rochelle sees it, she'll kick it back and she'll ask you to fix it. So that's going to be our game plan when we're on virtual learning. Now you notice October and February and March are different. And the reason they're different is because that's our fall count window and that's our spring count window. And if you recall, I said it's 2 parts now. Mentor logs in 4 weeks of count, and then these once a month. So take a minute, just process that quietly. Think to yourself, jot any questions down you might have. We're going to keep moving forward. We'll come back to your questions at the end. So, we're on to the next page. Mentor log dates for count. We wanted to share that snapshot with you of what that entails. October count day is October 7th, the first Wednesday of October. So in that window of October, so pause. We hope, I'm just going to put my hope out there, we're back to face-to-face. And this title will only apply to Lapeer Virtual. But remember I said let's pretend the switch goes up and we're in phase 3. You could be in a circumstance where you are submitting mentor logs to us for the week of October 7th through October 14th. That means I have 1 mentor log per kid to show my two-way interaction. And I know what you're thinking. I have 30 kids in my classroom, and you want me to have a mentor log for 30 kids, and how do I contact them? We're going to get there. So that gives you an idea. If we're not back in face-to-face instruction, we also have to demonstrate this component. Or if the switch flips and we go to phase 3, we have to flip back to mentor logs. Now, if you're a Lapeer virtual teacher, which I have a teacher sitting in the room, Susan Wheatley, she's over at Lapeer Virtual, she's got a piece of the kids. She's got to do this business regardless because those kids are virtual kids all year long, or at least for the semester. So let's look at the next slide. Again, snapshot in time. What is February? That's called spring count. If we're in February, what would mentor logs look like then? That means those 4 weeks, I have to give two-way interaction, and I have to document for each kid on my caseload, and I'll turn those into my principal, and they'll review them and give them to Rochelle. Okay? All right, so now, pause. My goal was to explain to you that Big Bad People Accounting Manual involves governmental rules. Michelle is going to explain to you now the district expectations on attendance. So switch over to attendance, because the mentor log and attendance are now two different things. And then I'm going to come back and we're going to go back to mentor logs.
Hi. So, attendance. So technically, like Jen said, in being in a virtual environment, attendance isn't required. However, we know from the spring, it's very important to take attendance on our Zooms. So you'll be putting attendance in Power School during your Zooms. But the purpose isn't for virtual. The purpose is to communicate with parents, especially at the secondary level. They really found that towards the end of that springtime, that when they were taking attendance, some of the parents realized that, oh, Johnny hasn't been on Zoom for the last 2 weeks, and then they really appreciated that. For you guys, your parents might know, they might not, they're working, but just you're taking attendance for the engagement purposes. And you're gonna do everything you can to contact the families, they're not Zooming. You guys probably already know, some of you had open houses, you're hearing, I can't put my kid on Zoom all day, I'm working. So we're gonna have to work through those things. We had a K-12 meeting last night to talk about some of these things, and one thing that we're looking at is opening up like our labs, if you still have them in your building, or your cafeteria, or your literacy center, and bringing kids in by appointment or by subject, have support staff, or you can invite them in on the days that we're planning. If you want to assess, we want the kids in the building, we want to make the building accessible, but that's all stuff that we're going to have to work on next week to prepare and communicate. So attendance is just for our own records. Next slide. Yeah. So your mentor logs, this is something else that we've decided when you're going to do the mentor log. You're going for, during that intervention and acceleration time, that's 3 hours during the week, that's the time that you're going to be doing your mentor logs or monitoring. So we see that intervention acceleration time is all your kids are on it. You are also going to work with your building principal and your coach and your special ed teacher to try to divide that group up and do some breakout Zooms, which is also going to be another PD opportunity we want to give you next week, is how to do a breakout Zoom if you don't. Because our special teachers are teaching on Tuesday and Friday, they could have time to help you on one of those intervention acceleration times. So we're hoping that you can get like 3 bodies, divide the kids up into 3. The teacher's gonna take a group, and those are the mentor logs that they're gonna do. The special teacher might take a group, those are the logs that the special teacher's gonna do. And a coach or special ed teacher is also gonna do that. Special ed teachers, you can do that, you're gonna be meeting with them individually all the time, so you don't technically have to, do the mentor logs during that intervention acceleration time, but that's the general rule, is the time that we want to do. It has to be on the core subject areas, just like MTSS. So we figured because that intervention and acceleration time is technically our MTSS time, and that's when you might meet with the student individually, that makes sense to make that time for when you would get enough the mental logs. So that's our own district rules. Are you going to talk or you talk? We can talk more next week.
So I just want to summarize what I heard. If I'm you, and I'm very overwhelmed right now, going, what in the world is going on being said? I heard about attendance. Can I go back to that, Kyle? That the purpose for taking attendance is for our internal matter of knowing if our kids are engaged and participating. There's also a piece that's very important, that in that Saturday session with the legislators, they may say to districts, provide your proof that students were engaged and participating. So this helps us kind of
I joke in special ed, you might find this funny, you may not, but CYA, cover your ankles, right? Or other things maybe. So it helps us kind of wrap around so we can secure everything we need appropriately. If you look at your mentor log, K5, that third bullet that says mentor logs will represent core subjects. We're going to talk about what that looks like, but that's what we're going to see on your logs. That's what you're going to write. We're going to give you some examples of what you should write and what you shouldn't write. That's where we're moving next. So if that's an important piece, I would draw a big circle around that third bullet as a visual reminder. So with that, we are going to shift, and you're going to gather that next handout that has the calendar on it. And I would like to introduce our Lapeer County ISD auditor. And you're probably wondering, why the heck is an auditor here? So in this journey, the behind the scenes work that we do, when we count kids, we have to send all of your attendance documentation, those from Power School, from Rochelle, she submits it to an auditor. Leslie Shamel is our Lapeer County auditor. She works for the ISD, she represents our 5 districts, she advocates in our best interest, but it is her role to say, yep, this district has 5,000 X amount of kids, and submit that to the state, so then in simple terms, again, we are then able to receive our funding. So she's going to walk you through what those expectations are on a mentor log, what you have to write on that log, and what we don't want you to write. Okay? So with that, Leslie Shamel.
Good morning. Some of you I have had the pleasure of doing a teacher interview with when I've come into your buildings to do audits. Most of you probably not. You may not have ever even seen me come into your buildings. This is imperative and so important when we are looking at counting your students. So as a virtual student, for count period, there are 4 weeks of contact that are mandated. You have to do that for the 4 weeks to count, beginning on count day. So when you look at this colored sheet, what this tells you is the count period of the 4 weeks. So it starts on Wednesday, October 7th, and runs through the following Tuesday. As Jennifer had shown you, you have a breakdown of the 4 weeks. I also put that on the back of this sheet, so you know what each of these weeks are. What that means is you initiated contact with a student, or a student contacts you, and you respond back to that student. That is a two-way contact, communication. That communication must be academic related, content related to a course on the student schedule. So, as you move through the paperwork, I give you an unacceptable mentor log. The reason this is unacceptable when you look through it, emailed student is falling behind. He said he's aware he's really busy. What's he falling behind on? I'm not looking for a book. I'm not asking you to write a book. It's a lot of logs you're going to have to do. A simple statement, students falling behind, and for you all, which are K5, Math 1, students falling behind in Math 1. Discuss progress. Discuss how to pick up the pace. Student is at 30%, should be at 45% completed in the class of Math 1. Make sure you're stating what class you are discussing with the student. That is extremely important. That's what it means when this is content related. For all of you, you have an actual little bonus. Because these students are so young, K-5 can be parent-facilitated conversation. I still would like to know that the student was there. Please don't tell me you talked to mom. Just say your conversation was what the student was working on. So if you flip the page to acceptable mental logs, the first one's more high school related. If you go to the one that has a little check marks on it, this is more elementary related. In Math 1, the student learned about basic addition. Perfect. Again, not a book, very simple, but it's discussing what that student is doing in that week. So going back to the weeks, Wednesday to Thursday, or Wednesday, Tuesday, I'm sorry. So you initiate on count day on the 7th on that Wednesday, or every Wednesday. That student needs to respond to you before that Tuesday. So in the first week, which is October 7th through 13th, you're going to initiate a conversation with the student, or a student's going to come to you and say, Mrs. Smith, I can't log into Math 1. And you're going to respond back, okay, I'll get you a password, or here's your password. That's an acceptable communication. However, you had to respond by October 13th. Okay, so it has to be in that week. That initiation and that response must be in each of those weeks. That's imperative. Or you will lose the count. These students are 100% virtual. The mental logs are what are determining that they can be counted. So it's all or nothing. When I look at these, I do read every single one of these across my desk. The first thing I do is I look to make sure there's at least one contact with the student in each of those 4 weeks. Second thing I look for is I make sure that it is content related, all 4 of those contacts. And it can be any class on the schedule. You can talk about the same class all 4 weeks. You can talk about different classes all 4 weeks. That's up to you as the teacher of record, the mentor. I'm not going to look at that. What I am going to look at is if the student's scheduled in Spanish and you're talking about physical education and I don't see phys ed on the schedule at all, that's a deduct. Plain and simple. Has to be a course that's listed on that student's schedule. Any questions about this? I know it's an awful lot to take in, especially for all of you that are doing this for the first time. Please, I cannot recommend highly enough. Ask questions. I recommend you ask questions. If you are unsure about what you're doing, ask the questions. Once it comes to me, it's too late. Then it's an official document, it's an auditable document, and there can't be any changes. Your communications can take place via phone, text, email, Skype, instant messaging. However you choose to make that communication, that's allowable. I am going to tell you this, an email, an instant message, a text message, those are substantiated documentation. So if you write it wrong on the log and it comes to me and I have a question, and I see that it was an email, because you're going to check how you contacted that student, I'll say to Rochelle, generally, hey, can you give me a copy of that email or that text message? So that I can confirm that that communication truly was a good communication between you and that student. If it's phone, face-to-face, anything that can't be substantiated, once it's written on that log, you're done. And it's on my desk, it's done. It won't come back, it can't be edited. Yes. Then that's something you need to take up with your principals, because, and don't wait until Tuesday. Please do not wait until Tuesday of that week that they're due. Contact your principal. If you've made a couple contacts and they're not responding, get with your principal immediately and let them start to intervene on your behalf. You're doing your due diligence and you're doing as best as you can. Sometimes that happens. And what I prefer at that point in time is that your principal is then communicating with Rochelle and you can get rid of that student, and I don't mean get rid of them. I mean, take the count away so that I'm not making a deduct. You're already taking that away. It's not coming to my desk and I'm saying, there's no contact. Why did you submit the student for a 1.0 FTE? It's a deduct. You're handling it in-house before it ever comes to me. So if that becomes an issue, please take it up with your principals. And your principal to know Mr. Laundry and all the other support administrative staff have talked to them about their role in this and how to help you all be successful. And then I thought I saw another question, yeah.
I'm just curious, so we said that if I initiate contact, and Wednesday that the child gets back to me, is that going to counsel them?
No, that's your,
Is that
that's,
going to counsel?
so say that again.
So like,
So you initiate on which day?
on Monday.
So let's look at this. So Monday, the 11th, you're initiated a contact.
And then they don't get back after they, so it's going to counsel.
No, that doesn't count then, at all. Correct. So the question was, you initiate the contact on Wednesday, or on Monday, the teacher, or the student doesn't get back to you until Wednesday. Wednesday is now week 2 or week 3. That's a deduct. That doesn't count. Has to be one contact within each of those 4 weeks. So I'm going to suggest, this happened in another training that I did, start contacts on Wednesday. Reach out, get something out there. Mass emails are not acceptable. So I will tell you that. So if you send out a mass email that just says, hey, I want to know how you all are doing, if the student responds to you, you then have to respond to that student individually. So in order to do a communication, it has to be between you and that student. Yes.
So does our classroom Zoom call, if it's everybody on there together, does that count as our communication?
Doug is saying no.
What
Yes.
is like an individual chat that student during your Zoom?
As long as you, if you then write it on your log, yep, perfect. She said if you're on your Zoom and you did a chat with that specific student about something, if you document that chat on your log, you're fine. Document that on your log, perfect. But you tell them what just explain on your log really quick, hey, help the student through a math 1 problem. Yes. Yes, she said, what if you help a student on the Zoom, then just put that in your log. But make sure that you're saying which content area you help them in. Other questions? I know this is a lot, we've all taken, but it is really, really important. Sure, yeah. You guys, hey, wait, sorry.
So we're getting feedback on like in Zoom classroom and the student and we are, as the feedback is what we can talk about assignments that they're doing.
Yeah, that'll work. Doesn't have to be separated, I'm sorry. No. If you're doing it that way, as long as you're documenting it, that you're talking to that student, if that's when you're talking to them and that's part of what you want to use it. I can't say no. I'm looking at what's on that log. So it's whatever's documented on that log is what I'm going to review for count purposes. Yeah.
So if they turn in a Google assignment and then you comment back, but they don't comment back, would that count?
No. It's communication.
Okay, so we can just kind of wrap up for a second, come back together, because we do need to transition. So you heard in 45 minutes a little bit about what does it mean to be a virtual learning student? What does it mean when a district offers virtual learning? Who is a teacher of record? That means you. And as a teacher of record, when we are in virtual learning or in phase 1 through 3, what our obligation is. So Michelle said to me, if we go back face to face on October 5th, they won't have to do this count thing, right? Yeah. But guess what? Do we have to do a mentor log for September? Yes. And if the switch flips in December and we're in phase 3, we're going to give direction to the building administrators who will give the direction to you to say, okay, folks, it's time, back to mentor logs we go. So we just want to make sure you're clear on this could ping and pong throughout the school year. Yes.
But in September, where we're at right now, we only have to do this like one meeting with each kid for the month.
Two-way interaction for the month of September, yes. And if we are back button seat on October 5th and we ride out the storm and go to phase 5, hallelujah. Yes. September 8th is our first day of school, so that window of September 8th until, what did I say, the payday, the 23rd, yes. So follow that chart.
That's why next week on Friday, or Thursday, Friday, you're gonna push out a week's worth of lesson plans to the parents and students, because the next week, you're only face-to-face with the kids 1 day a week, so you're technically on virtual, even though you're face-to-face with the kids, because they're only 1 day. So it starts, so your planning next week is crucial. You're gonna push out a week's worth of lesson plans before you leave for the next week, because technically your kids are virtual learning. Jen?
And we only have to log one occurrence for everything.
For the month.
You're gonna want to stress the Monday through Wednesday through Tuesday is how you guys determine that. Okay.
Okay, so if we, last time we're coming together with me, last time, promise. If you have questions that you wrote down that you did not feel comfortable asking, you are more than welcome to submit them to myself, to Rochelle, or to Michelle, and we will get back with you. Your building administrators are also learning right alongside with you, because this is new for K-5. I wish you the best at the start of the school year, and hopefully that we are back face-to-face on October 5th. Have a wonderful rest of your PD. Thank you.
We have all week next week to talk about all this stuff. So you might want to keep a running list of things that you need to know, but luckily we're fortunate because we've had virtual learning in our district for several years. So a lot of our secondary folks already do this, and you can reach out to them as well. Dr. Timothy Shanahan is in the house. Give him a round of applause. This might give you some sense of normalcy. You're not learning about mental life, you're not learning about virtual learning, you're learning about best practice for the rest of the day. Enjoy it. We're very fortunate to have him. I want you to take a 10-minute break so we can get set up, but we'll start in 10 minutes.